Hello and welcome back to Jesse's Vintage Garage, and in this video segment we're going to work on getting the front fender mounted. So we're going to put all this stuff together. So I got it all spread out here and labeled and marked out with what it all is. We'll go over all that and how to do this hopefully. And but before we get started putting this all together, I want to try to buff this out a little bit more and see how that goes. But starting off here, before I wanted to talk about this little device here. This holds the front brake cable out of the way, and then it goes to the fender right here. And it's usually held in with like a push fit little lock thing here, and it worked pretty good. They hold in there and they stay. But if you ever try to take it out, you will destroy this thing trying to get this off pretty much most of the time. So what we did, and we've done this before, I think we did it to the Tiger. I don't know if we showed it or not, but we drill a little hole in here. We first set the depth and the thickness of it. Then we put a washer on. Then we drill a little hole for a cotter pin to go through and hold it on. This will make it to where we can take it off, on and off easy if we have to. Like if something were to happen to the fender, it wouldn't have to break this thing. And these are kind of expensive. Well, they can be over 10 bucks or so. Especially if you find a real one like this one is. And yeah, so I just modified it a little bit, and it'll be better than it was factory, because this little spring clip, like I said, it breaks, but it does grip. It goes in there, pops into place, and then gouges into the thing to hold it, and it works really effective. But we don't really want to run that, so we're going to try it this way. And so far we have it already set up. We just put it on the fender, like I said, and put the washer down. And then we get our gap figured out that way. We add about a little bit of thickness for the fender itself. And then we find a kind of a decent sized cotter pin, put it in there and wrap it around, and it'll hold it good. So anyway, let's go start working on buffing this up some more and see how this turns out. Well, I got done polishing it up more. I'm able to see myself a little bit better in this now. So, there you go. It's about as good as I'm going to be able to get it, I think. Alright, we got the fender mostly assembled here, ready to go on the bike. So right now, there's just a couple things I want to point out that it's not very clear out there. But there's a fiber washer goes between the fender and a flat washer, and then the hex nut here on these front two braces. And this fender had the originally would have had a stud here with a spigot nut, but this one had to modify it and run a bolt and just a regular nut because it was damaged or messed up over time. The bolts go from the head outside to the inside from everything I've seen on other bikes, that either they're restoring it wrong, either way. But this is how we're going to run it, because consensus is this way. And this is the correct DS57 domed head nuts that were up here. We put them back this way like they're supposed to be. There was a bunch of Barney bolts and stuff in here when we were taking this apart originally. So this is the correct style stuff. There's some oil or grease or something on there. I gotta clean them up, but it's all right. Yeah, then there's a regular nut here that's not locking. It's domed. It's domed on one side and flat on the other side. Flat goes towards the tightening surface, and then domed to the outside. And this hooks onto the little teardrop pieces that mount to the forks. So I'm going to show you that real quick and how that is laid out. Alright, so we removed the front wheel so we could do this. Just to make it easier anyway. Anyways, this is how the teardrop pieces are. It's flat on top, and it comes upward when you put this. It's laid out a certain way, and this is how it mounts. And then this is a 1/2-inch bolt here that goes in, and these fork tubes were 24 thread here, and I think some of the earlier ones were 26 thread. So anyway, that's what we got in here, and we put stainless in, so that's going to be good, and they're nice and tight. And we're going to bring the fender over and mount it to here now. We got the fender mounted here now to the teardrop pieces. So yeah, we got the bolt going inward. There was no washers according to the parts book on this bolt on both sides. And then down here, it shows a washer. It's on the inside next to the nut, and the bolt's on the outside. And this nut here is actually a locking nut in a way. It's a pinch locking nut, and that's how the proper part for the book shows anyway. So we'll be tightening these up here now. We got everything tightened up and we're ready to put the wheel back on. And we'll come to a conclusion here. All right, here we are. We got the fender mounted and the wheel back in, and we have it nice and straight. We had to tweak the fender a little bit because if you remember, this fender was mangled up in the beginning, but it looks a lot better than it did when we first got the thing. We kind of flew through this video, it seems like. I didn't mean for it to really be so short. But anyways, it didn't really take a whole lot to do this. I mean, we had to like modify this a little bit. We had to tweak it to where it lined up better and more centered. Polishing it, I didn't really show that. I thought that would be boring for anyone to watch, but I used rouge and on a buffing wheel, and after I got done doing it in a previous video on the front forks, I was showing that actually I was sanding it with stuff and steel wool and autosol polish. That stuff works really good. And I gotta finish cleaning this up somewhere. I can see some fingerprints and stuff. But these top bolts here are domed head, and they're 1/4 inch. Like I was saying earlier, there's a little bit of some grease or something on here. It's got to clean that up too. The other thing was, I didn't quite like this original bolt that went in here. It didn't seem long enough. It was about halfway through the threads. It wasn't long enough. And now I even added a washer here on both sides, by the nut and by the head of the bolt. And it's actually a 1-inch bolt here now, and stainless. And the length of the bolt is flush with the back of this nut. I like that a lot better. It might not be proper and correct, but it's a better fit. This bolt back here was a 1/2-inch bolt that mounts to this. It's a special washer too. It's 5/16 hole with 15/16 outside diameter. It's not a typical fender washer that you can find at the store. A fender washer would be about 1.1/8 or 1.25 inches, and it'd almost be the same diameter as this thing. It would just look kind of out of place if it was any bigger than it is. What else is exciting? We remounted the wheel, made sure that this gap was flush and equal on both front and rear, and tighten that up. This is an original type bolt and nut there, and yeah, unfortunately this fender ain't perfect, and this part back here is supposed to be a stud, like I said, with a spigot nut. A spigot nut's more like a nut with like a standoff with like a collar in it, and this looks good. And originally I don't think this brace was sitting in the proper spot. So now that I put it in the right way, the correct way, the wear mark where it was at is there. And I don't want to flip it over because that's not how it's supposed to be, according to other bikes I've seen. So anyway, hope you enjoyed everything with this. Like I said, we got by pretty quick. And we got this mounted. We have a cotter pin there like I was talking about earlier. So I'll be able to route the brake cable through here and down to that one really nice. And the whole reason for this one is to keep it from getting caught in this pinch point right here and messing up the cable. And a lot of bikes I've seen with this missing, the cable's all messed up right there. And that's what this is for. And yeah, same with this. So when that brake cable comes down, it'll go through here and loop across and pull that really nice. So it's coming together really nice. So stick around, make sure you subscribe, and see how this bike turns out in the end. We're putting a lot of effort and time into it, and care. So I hope you enjoyed everything, and we'll see you again soon.